Hi there, I'm Chris Stashew.
I'm Mike White.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Dreams for Sale, a once-a-month look at the Twilight Zone 1985. Yeah, it's a show. I mean, I don't know. I would say it's our favorite. It is the best reboot of the show, but ladies and gentlemen, the third season of that show is doing everything it can to give us a reason not to say that.
It can't sully the earlier seasons, though.
That's right.
That's fair. It cannot undo, it cannot retcon quality. However, on this episode, we are talking about 3 episodes of the third season, episodes 7, 8, and 9, The Hellgrammite Method, Our Selena is Dying, and The Call.
Miley Judson, an everyman who has strayed from the path, slipped and fallen many times. A man who seeks solace from his problems at the bottom of a glass. A good man at war with himself, slowly drowning in alcohol, swallow by swallow, pulled down by the insidious undertow of an endless ocean of booze, helpless to stop doing the one thing he does better than anything else, drink.
The Hellgrammite Method aired November 5th, 1988. It is directed by Gilbert M. Shilton, written by William Selby, and it stars, that's my Bush, Timothy Bottoms. Boy, that is a specific reference for only a certain age group of people, because I'm sure he's been in other better things.
Apocalypse Now?
No, that's my Bush. No.
I know. You said certain. He's probably been in better things. Yes, he has. He was in Apocalypse Now.
But his role in That's My Bush he was top billed in that, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Joseph Bottoms, by the way. Totally different guy.
If you're wondering why I was bringing up That's My Bush, it's because Timothy Bottoms does look a lot like George Bush in the right light.
Good. Yeah, I can do a good Bush impersonation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he plays a struggling alcoholic who agrees to a unique treatment that will stop him from drinking and also may stop him from living. It was fun. Can an episode about alcoholics drinking worms be fun?
It could be.
If the right person was directing it.
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think we got that here, but
no, I agree.
As soon as it started, I just had a flash of there's a Stephen King short story called Quitters Incorporated.
Thank you.
Which they had already adapted into the film Cat's Eye with James Woods. And man, it is great.
Oh, yeah.
Known stable genius, James Woods.
Right.
Yes, of course.
He was the name, by the way, Mike, we forgot on that Culture Cast recording. We were naming all the crazy right-wing yo-yos.
Oh,
James Woods was the name we forgot, which James Woods is more upset about that than we are, I guarantee you that. He wants to...
the king?
Yeah, the king of the nutsos.
We did, but we remember John Voight.
Yeah.
Ah, well.
And Robert Davi.
But yeah, I was totally thinking of Quitters Inc. as well as a little bit Poltergeist 2. Like that scene when Steven drinks the tequila
with
and
the worm,
gets the worm. Yeah. And then the worm ends up coming out. Yeah.
Thanks to our friend Mark Begley, I actually know what you're talking about.
Yay.
Yeah. It is weird that it wouldn't Poltergeist 2 have been a couple years around this?
It was definitely around this time. Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it came out before.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Because the first Poltergeist came out in like 83. So
the
next one was 85, maybe. Certainly earlier than 1988.
That's fair.
So, aside of the fact that it immediately evoked this other better thing, I was kind of into it for a while. And I like Timothy Bottoms, let me say that, but I think he's terrible here. Like, I didn't see any struggle in this guy at all. And then also, no one seeks the cure while they're still happy and goofy, which is kind of what we got here. Like, he's kind of doing this,
what do I do? It's like,
as a lark.
You're not down on your luck. Your wife hasn't even left you yet.
Right. And that's kind of the problem with this episode. This guy doesn't hit bottom and seeks this out just sort of as a last resort. I mean, he mentions that he's tried before in the past, but he seems like an asshole to begin with. So I don't think he was trying too hard.
That's fair.
And then, I liked the idea that they put this parasite into you that craves the alcohol, and if you drink it, it's going to get bigger and kill you, and if you stop, it's going to hurt you. Like, I kind of, I mean, that's any addiction, but it's handled so poorly here. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, it didn't seem like there were any stakes. Like, I never really believed that wife was going to leave him, and you know, and the sort of central casting child that they had come in, like, oh, are you sick again, Daddy? Like, oh my God, it was just so.
That child should have been aborted.
I believe, just like that other child in that
little boy
other
Ross.
episode. Yeah.
Yes.
You know what this episode reminded me a little bit of? Kentucky Rye.
Yeah, where there in that one at least we were getting like the fucking consequence of this guy's asshole.
Here's what happens if you drink, you die. You literally die. I will say what could have fixed this episode. I enjoyed this episode a little bit. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It would have been fun if this episode had given the audience the idea that maybe the worm wasn't real.
Oh, yeah, that could have been fun.
Like that, right? Like I felt like they had this opportunity, and you can like when you watch the episode, I think it's probably around like the 16-minute mark, which is 6 minutes before it ends. They had this moment where he's like, well, it's part of you now. There's nothing you can do about it. So you better figure it out. Like, to me, I'm sitting there thinking like, yo, this guy should just be fucking with alcoholics. Just like, like, I know that that's terrible, but this is also a fucking TV show, not real life. So like, if you're making this story of a guy fucking with alcoholics as it is, he should really fuck with them and be like, at the end of the episode, be like, oh yeah, like that, the fucking Hellgramite worm doesn't exist, dum-dums. Like,
either that or a couple things. I understand that the guy who gives him the worm, he lost his daughter because
and
of a
family
drunk.
And whole family. Yeah.
Maybe if Timothy Bottoms had been the cause of that, that would have been something, and it'd be more of like a personal motivation. Maybe that. But at the same time, I do like how it is kind of being passed from person to person, that he's then helping out this other guy. But at the same time, okay, if the worm is real, how did this guy discover it? And like, where did this come from? Was there some sort of deal with the devil to get this worm, or how was it? How did it come into existence? How did they discover that this is going to be the thing to cure people of drunkenness? But yeah, it felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities with this one. And to your point, Father Malone, I did just keep thinking about Quitters Inc. And I was just like, well, how did that one go? And what about the fingers? And what about the wife in the cage with the electricity? And I'm just being constantly reminded of better stuff.
In Quitters Incorporated, like, you got the sense that he's like desperately trying not to do it. And
for our audience, tell because I haven't read it in a while. Quitters Incorporated is a Stephen King short story about.
It's about a man that is addicted to smoking, if memory serves, right? And it's very much the same kind of idea, like desperate to stop smoking, and ends up going to this mysterious corporation, and they're like, hey, we can help you out. You just have to follow our program completely. And I don't remember all the ins and outs, but they basically end up like torturing his wife, put her in a room with like electricity on the floor, and she's there like dancing on this electrical grid and just like screaming, and it's like, oh, you smoked a cigarette again, this is what you get, kind of thing.
And there's this like implicit threat that he has a young daughter that they'll treat her poorly next.
Oh, good.
If he does that. Or and not only that, like, so he has this sort of looming threat, but then he's actually being followed, and they're like, everywhere he looks, there's somebody like keeping tabs on him. And he thinks he's being like really furtive and secretive about attempting to smoke, but there's always someone around.
Right.
So it's like nothing but tension the entire time. And, I mean, it's not fair to compare the two, but if you're going to play in this fucking sandbox after that thing exists, then do something better. And we didn't get it here. When he walked out the door of the bar at the end and the fucking credits came up, I was like, wait, what? I was waiting.
No, comeuppance. Good guy wins.
Yeah, I mean, I know I rail against the sort of the writerly necessity here in the Twilight Zone, like, oh, we gotta get a twist in there, but like this one needed the fucking twist. There had to have been something.
Way too straightforward.
Yeah,
and on top of everything else, it did that like really cheesy, cheap thing of like, cut to like a week later. Like, fuck you. Fuck this bullshit trope. This is fucking lazy. You have written yourself into a corner. A scream is not your way out, but that's all we're gonna get. That is all that is. It is a
And Timothy
lazy
Bottoms
screenwriting
really sells
technique.
those screams, right? It's like the same sort of sound over the for like 20 minutes. I'm just like, come on, man.
He's doing his best impersonation of a cowboy. Yeehaw!
So I forgot the finger thing. I just looked up the story, and the finger thing is that if the main character strays from his goal, they threaten to cut off his wife's finger. And then the very last part of the story is he and his wife at a party, and he shakes the host's wife's hand and realizes that she's missing a finger. And so apparently King even went on the record to say that he was inspired a little bit by Roald Dahl's The Man from the South episode, which was famously turned into a Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and then famously recycled by Tarantino in 4 Rooms.
No. You don't understand. Tarantino came up with it first. He wrote the goddamn novel in 1901 that everybody else references, okay? He traveled back in time and did it that way. Why do you hate him so much? Your hatred
hate fun, don't you?
You hate good movies that elevate the craft and just make us all better film goers, okay?
Yeah. Apparently there's a 2007 Bollywood film which is also based on the same story, and now I'm very curious to see that.
I mean, this story is a cool idea, which is why Stephen King
I was on board
clearly
for
did the
most
story better than this. William Selby is not Stephen King.
Yeah, I wanted to like it a lot more.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was on board for it as well. And it was just like, okay, like when he's pouring out all the liquor and stuff and then like smelling his hands and licking his hands and then he's just like washing his hands. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this is all right. But yeah, it just didn't necessarily go far enough.
No. And it, again, honestly, this could have been an hour long.
Yeah.
No.
It did feel quick, right?
Oh, my God. Oh, you want to talk about quick? Wait until we get to the call, brother. Then we're going to talk about 5 minutes in the ring with me, dude. That's all you're going to get. That's what it felt like. Oh, my God. I have not come down on very many of these episodes for being too short. Most of the time, it's like, thank God it's over. We're getting it out of the way. We're moving on to something else. This episode was way too short. If they had given it time to breathe, I genuinely think that we could have had some things like what Stephen King's short story talks about. Some sort of punishment. I mean, the punishment is just he's going to die. That's not very creative. Like, what stakes are those? Whether you're going to live or going to die.
That was the thing about Quitters Incorporated was, he assumed that the threats were toward him, but it wasn't that. It was they were going to hurt everyone around him, which is what addiction is. The great bugaboo with addiction is you're killing everyone in around you and not yourself. So, this is a very interesting concept. I really wanted to like it. Well.
Do you think if they had focused on his family instead of him, it would have been a better episode?
If they had written better characters for him to interact with, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's talk about the next episode. Our Selena is dying.
Your attention is drawn to the residence of the Brockman clan, an ancient mansion, its paneled walls polished by darkness, a lightless, soundless place upon which a greater darkness has fallen. The object of the Death Watch, Selena Brockman, Grand Dame of the Menagerie, who lies in her bed in an inch-by-inch battle with death, trying somehow to reach a compromise instead of a capitulation.
So Our Selena is Dying aired November 12th, 1988. It stars Terry Garber, Jennifer Dale, and R.H. Thompson. It is directed by Bruce Pittman, with a teleplay by J. Michael Straczynski, who has been doing great work on this show so far. Just fantastic. And it's actually adapted from a Rod Serling story, which means this is only one way to go, which is not well. This episode focuses on a doctor who becomes suspicious that a young woman is losing her youth to her aunt, who is the titular Selena, who is dying. This is a really bizarre episode.
Did you say bad?
I said bizarre. Sometimes we use other words to mean things. It is not good though.
No, it is remarkably bad. Like, in all the ways the previous episode had been kind of intriguing. So I wanted to keep watching and see where they went. Here, it was pretty clear from the fucking get-go what was going on, and it was just a slow grind to get there.
I too like to rip off Dorian Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, this even felt like the at least one, if not two, episodes of Kolchak the Night Stalker that we watched. I think it reminded us of, reminded me of the one with Kathy Lee Crosby. Was that her name? And then
She was the succubus.
Yeah, and like had the Eternal Youth, and then there was the Eternal Youth episode that was in the Kolchak reboot. And it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You need to stay young, and by you staying young, you make other people around you old or suffer. And this one is you make other people old so that you can be young. And it even reminded me a little bit of The Night Strangler, this whole thing where they go through the newspapers. I'm thinking of like, little Wally Cox in the morgue of the newspaper with like, oh yeah, here, and then in 1844 there was this general, and then in this year there was this, which was again kind of almost a Victor Toombs type of thing.
I was about to say that's very Toombs.
Yeah, so it's like,
but
okay.
like done better by a better show.
Yeah, and I would be curious. I'd like to go back and see the Queen of the Nile episode that this was based on, because I think that would probably be a little bit better than this. So
it certainly would look better. I think I've said this before in previous podcasts, but like once they moved to Canada, the previous seasons, whether or not the quality of the writing was good, it always felt like a little movie. And now I feel like we're just watching some cop procedural from the mid 80s. It looks flat and uninteresting. And the direction is just like, it's so workmanlike. It's actually an offense to workmanlike directing.
Yeah, I was going to say bad workmanlike, because workmanlike can be
you
good.
can do the job and do it competently, and that should be the definition of workmanlike. Right. This is just like, there's no style to it whatsoever. It's just like, oh, we got two people talking. I'll cover it with a 2-shot and then 2 singles and moving on.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like a soap opera type of film that this is.
That is the best comparison that anyone has said about this episode that I have heard so far, and it is a soap opera. It feels like it. And just sort of story wise here. So this old woman, she has this power that she can sort of suck your youth out of you, and then she becomes young. Why did she get to the age that she was at, that she was so infirm that she needed a doctor? Don't. Okay. Take your logic
at this.
Take your logic out of this equation, then ask your question again. Okay, no, it isn't a question. Never mind. Don't question our logic here. It is just lazy, right?
Yeah, the worst kind of speculative fiction. This is the Twilight Zone, so you'll go with it. Like, no, you still got to give us something.
Don't you love how every intro for this season so far has been like, and it's happening in the Twilight Zone, so whatever can happen. Aliens can come from the sky.
We don't even need narration for this. Fuck it. Just throw them into it. Now they're like, you got to remind them up front we're in the Twilight Zone. Then kind of reaffirm it again at the end.
Yeah, and it is so different than how chilling the original narration, the Rod Serling narration would be, where you're just like, especially when it was like the camera would just move over and there's Serling standing there and you're like, oh shit. It's like things are about to get really real here.
In this one, it's like, she learned a lesson, gotta go. Like, that's what it is. Like, Robin Ward, no fault of his own. They just didn't give a fucking shit. They're just like, you know what, Robin, why don't you watch the episode and you write the outro? Like, that's what it feels like. That is how lazy. When we get to the call, it's even worse. But these, the intro outro narrations are just so bad that I'm getting to the point listening to them where I don't even want to include them in the episodes anymore. Because normally I include them before we talk about it. It's like, oh, a little interesting segue. And now I'm just like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I prefer Charles Aidman in the first 2 seasons. And he passed away, right? I mean, that's why they got a new narrator. But I do like the new guy's voice, and I like how gentle it is. And if the stories were as brutal as they should be, then that could be a fun kind of irony to it.
A little bit of a wink.
Yeah, but they're not doing that. And I've noticed that every single episode we watch for this particular podcast, the opening intro tells us everything we need to know. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so far afield from some of the earlier episodes where they're like, hey, here we are, check it out. And now it's just like spoon feed us the fucking things that we need to know so we won't ask too many questions along the way.
Imagine, if you will, a woman in bed who can suck the powers from everyone around her. Wouldn't that be fun? Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
The end.
Yeah,
Attention is drawn to the residence of the Brockman clan, an ancient mansion, its paneled walls polished by darkness, a lightless, soundless place upon which a greater darkness has fallen. I mean, it's almost up there with like, it was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah.
Not quite that cliche, but
Open
rather
on a
the other way around.
warehouse night.
Yes.
Warehouse night. Exterior.
Smash cut 2.
Exterior night. Warehouse. A man stands alone. Fuck you. And you know what's really sad? The saddest, probably the biggest problem here. J. Michael Straczynski is really good at writing comic books.
Yeah. I like Babylon 5.
Yeah, he's written some good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, this
Ain't it?
No.
This is not it times 10.
I mean, it's got to be daunting if somebody hands you like, hey, here's the last outline Rod Serling ever wrote. Make this good. But this does not
rise to that occasion.
Yeah, man. Because you know what? We saw in previous seasons, Rockney O'Bannon, he did Night of the Meek, which was a Serling episode. And I liked it better than the original. So it can be done, but I don't know.
Well, Brother Rockney was keeping the show on calm waters when it was having problems, so
yeah,
his episodes were good. I mean, that's the kind of real sad thing about the show at this point is it doesn't seem to be anybody in the control room with half of a brain in their head pulling the controls like, well, we need to do this and this, like, slam it all to the ground, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta wonder, like, clearly the show got canceled and then they're like, no, we're just gonna bring it back. And I'm sure there's a level of, well, I'm just happy to keep working and I'm happy to keep working on the Twilight Zone, but they're not I'm going to have to listen to the studio,
Yeah.
So like, who knows how many fingers were in the pie here?
They all stink. I know that much. Stinky fingers, folks. I don't know. I wonder what that Rod Serling outline looked like. I wonder what Rod Serling's initial idea for this episode was.
Here's the whole treatment. Old women can suck powers out of people.
That's pretty much it.
I mean,
what do you think, CBS? Are you sold?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Serling. Here's
as
another
long as we can
episodes.
say a very special Twilight Zone from Rod Serling himself. Like, I don't
do you
think
that's
they
how
cared
they
about the
advertise
quality.
this?
I know that they did that whenever they remade an episode. The advertising would be like, a special recreation of the original Twilight Zone.
I mean, keep that in the back.
Yeah.
For the special customers. Oh, God. You guys ready to talk about the final episode?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Could it be worse than this one?
No, actually, no.
So let's talk about that episode. We're going to talk about The Call.
Norman Blaine, whose greatest fear is that if he were to vanish from the earth tomorrow, no one would notice, or mourn, or question. And whose greatest sadness is the realization that he is probably right. Sofa, coffee table, chair, and pet. Solitary decorations in a life noted chiefly for its isolation. Point of origin and point of destination for Norman Blaine, whose days and nights are routinely swallowed into unhappy silence.
So The Call aired November 19th, 1988. It is once again directed by Gilbert M. Shilton. It is once again written by J. Michael Straczynski. This time, it is written by J. Michael Straczynski, as opposed to teleplay by Mr. Straczynski. It does, however, star a fantastic actor, a fellow gentleman named William Sanderson. You may know him from such films as, let's go around the table, I know him from The Rocketeer.
Blade Runner, baby.
Oh, yeah. And then Newhart, which was not a movie, but a TV show.
And he was excellent in each of these things.
And I believe on your podcast, The Projection Booth, Mike, you have spoken with Mr. Sanderson.
Yes, got him to talk about his career and talk about Blade Runner. And was such a nice man and was so appreciative of us talking to him. Like, it was almost like, oh, you guys, nobody ever wants to talk to me about things. I was like,
that's
really?
a shame. That is a fucking shame.
He's fantastic.
He seems like a genuinely nice guy.
Super nice. And he was telling us all about his wife and how much he loves his wife. And just like, you could tell he was like in New York City, was a little lonely, just wanted somebody to talk to. And he was just like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you guys about Blade Runner. Yeah, let's do it. So
that's
like,
awesome.
The funny thing is, his performance in Blade Runner, like without him, everyone is really cold and distant in that movie. He's the actual human heart of that movie.
He
like,
is.
His death is like, it's like they don't show it or anything. They just kind of mention it. And it's such a blow when you hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I mean, everybody else is acting like a robot, but he's the one that makes the robots, and he's the only one that, he's making his friends. He's so lonely in that movie. And it's just like, okay, he plays lonely better than anybody that I know.
It's the look. It's just his look. It's something about, it's the way he holds his, it's the way he holds his face. And guess what we have in this episode? William Sanderson playing a man who's alone.
Yeah.
Who dials a phone number in error, and the person picks up, they have a conversation, and then he goes to work, and he works with the biggest dickhead on the planet.
Oh my God, isn't he?
God, that guy is lucky that William Sanderson didn't walk over to the paper cutter, tear the blade off, and just whack the dude over the head with it. I have 5 kids and I need quiet. You will have quiet permanently here momentarily.
The one time the guy wants to talk, and
I know.
It's just like, whoa, what are you doing?
But William Sanderson's phone call, and they end up calling each other a couple nights. William Sanderson, I guess, is calling her. She's calling him.
It seems like after a while they're calling each other.
So he goes and looks for the phone number. And it turns out that it's a bronze statue in a museum. Nobody saw that coming because it literally makes no sense.
Makes no sense at all. I got to say, with all that, I liked this episode. I'm always in the Twilight Zone. I enjoyed this episode. I don't know. I'm a sucker for the lonely person finding love, just like Saucer of Loneliness, which is much more skillful, obviously, than this one.
I mean, I like the idea. William Sanderson finding companionship is always good.
And there are worse ways to spend 22 minutes than with William Sanderson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We already spent 22 minutes with the folks of Our Selena is Dying. So
right.
Yeah, man. Like this was a cooling balm after the last one. So again, I don't know if this is by comparison or whether the episode stands on its own, but ultimately I enjoyed this one. Yeah,
I enjoyed this one as well. I didn't mind the twist of her being a statue. I guess I didn't necessarily see it coming. Like when he went to her work and then, she calls him up and is like, hey, I saw you today, looking for me. I'm like, oh shit, she was a statue. Okay. I mean, it wasn't like a major shocker, but I was like, okay, yeah, this works. And doesn't make any sense, but I'm cool with it. And that he joins her forever. I was like, okay, yeah, he really doesn't have anything else. It's not like that piece of shit coworker is going to suddenly turn nice.
Right.
So,
and the only thing that I think could have really put the episode over the top would be showing William Sanderson's replacement at work, who was a nonstop chatterbox.
Mm-hmm.
That would have felt pretty good.
I liked the episode. When the episode ended, I believe I'm trying to remember what I said out loud verbatim, but it was like, oh, come the fuck on, episode. Are you for real? That's how you're going to end? It's pretty cornball.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, if you will, this lonely man who's now sitting on a bench forever, and no one questions it. There's just this new thing in the museum that just looks like the guy who was there the day before, or maybe, who knows, it was really hard to tell.
I actually thought about that too, and I thought because that curator woman's got to come and look and go, wait, what the fuck?
Right.
But it actually made me happy because he put his hands on her, so it wasn't just like he was a statue sitting next to her. It's like one statue, so it wasn't like they were going to remove him. I guess I was bringing more to the episode than it was giving me. But look, as soon as I realized, like you said, Mike, when you realize that it's the statue,
right?
Of course, my brain starts reeling with thoughts of like, what, did she just pick up the phone? Like, is she wandering around at night?
Right.
Like, how does she remember his number?
It's telepathic.
I don't know. The sort of the logical questions that came up with earlier episodes, I knew that this one made even less sense, but it was such a genial episode, and William Sanderson is so likable that I'm willing to forgive the rest of that.
I mean, this episode pretty much survives on William Sanderson's performance.
Oh my God! If Timothy Bottoms had been in this role, then yeah, I'd be saying pass right now.
Yeah,
him making his strange noises the entire time. You don't want that? I'm drunk. Don't you know?
Hey, everybody! I'm a little bit of drunky.
I think for me, I like this segment, but I think for me, this segment just kind of feels very samey. It's just like, I mean, we've had a couple of these like lonely people looking for love episodes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now it's just a lonely man looking for love. He finds it. It just happens to be a inanimate object. And
People
I guess
fall in love with inanimate objects all the time.
I know.
Just ask my wife.
You're an inanimate fucking object. So, did you guys catch the thing about the artist? Why the artist? I was trying to figure out if this was why the artist was stuck in the statue. Was she stuck in the statue because she killed herself?
I think so. I think it was kind of her punishment.
Holy shit! That's some fucked up punishment, man. Like, I want a story about that character. The character who's like, I'm gonna fucking making this art and I'm gonna fucking kill myself. Oh shit, I'm stuck in my statue now. Like,
yeah.
But we got that.
I know, right?
In this episode.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. We did.
I mean, they could have dramatized it, I suppose. It is a visual medium. Why not?
Yeah. There is that.
Fuck you. He was okay.
Yeah.
Better than our Selena is dying.
It felt more like one of the earlier seasons.
Yeah.
Sort of attempts at this kind of, I don't want to, it is cornball, but like, it does seem to have more of a heart than that,
If you told me that this was the reboot of the original show's episode, not the last one, I would have believed you.
Totally.
Yeah.
This feels
really old Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
yes,
which is why I'm kind of sitting here like, this is kind of quaint. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect this from this show. I expect it from the original show. So maybe that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's still a good episode. I mean, like you guys have said, William Sanderson, he just does that hang dog better than anybody else does. Not Hound Dog. That's the other guy.
Right.
Yeah, that was the Once and Future
Elvis.
King episode.
Yeah.
Not the hang dog, the Hound Dog.
Impaled on a guitar.
Right. Back in time, nonetheless. He killed Elvis, and then he became Elvis, and then he committed all the same...
And then he wore his bloody clothes.
Yeah, and then he committed all the same problems that Elvis did.
Because the king he did this. I gotta follow it to the letter.
Yeah. I don't
want to improve Elvis's life.
Yeah. I gotta trust that piece of shit.
Colonel Tom Parker.
Yeah.
He's not just trying to make money off of me, I swear.
Wouldn't that be the first thing you would do if you were Elvis, is fire that motherfucker?
Fuck, I would kill him. I would pull out a gun and just shoot him. Who's going to send Elvis to jail?
Right.
Not Nixon. That's who.
Nope.
I've seen that picture with them shaking hands. I know the truth.
And there's 2 movies based on it.
Yeah.
It's true. So, on the next episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, whoa, not the show that we are on.
Yeah.
Bringing it back for one night only to talk about Twilight Zone. On the next
I miss
episode,
it too.
I know. It cuts deep to my core. On the next episode of Dreams for Sale, we're going to be talking about the trance Acts of Terror, Acts, ACTS, and 2020 Vision.
I got 2021 vision.
I was about to say, I'm living in a 2020 world.
Mm-hmm.
Yippee. Until then, where can people find you, Father Malone? Are you still fighting internet trolls?
Nah, I cooled my jets on that. The people have just been ridiculous lately. But no, if you want to check anything that I do out, please head over to fathermalone.com. I have a podcast called Dark Destinations, which is like a half-hour radio drama. You can check me out on that. And there's also a link to my YouTube channel where I've got a movie review show called You've Never Seen.
But...
Oh, stop.
If people have seen those movies, is there an email? Is there an email?
Tell me immediately.
An email address that they can send an email to you about?
Yes.
Yeah. Please don't harass Father Malone online. Harass him in person.
Yeah. We will
I was just gonna,
provide
you know what? I don't want to
his
give them any
address.
more airtime than they deserve. So I'm just gonna keep
Wait,
my
no,
mouth
now
shut.
you have to. Go ahead. Come on.
No, I had a guy who he watched my Gold Diggers of 1933 episode, and his comment was, "Turn your microphone down, you idiot." I think, which is at least like he
Did
watched
he want you to
it
turn it
and-
all the way down to off?
Yeah. So I wrote back in all caps, "Thanks for watching!" exclamation point. But like, you know, I don't know. That's moving on. Mike, where can people find you?
You can find me over at the Projection Booth, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com. And you can also find Chris and I talking about Rankin and Bass specials on the Rankin on Bass podcast. And Chris and I also talk about Barney Miller, which is available at the Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller, which is also a podcast that you should put in your ear holes.
You should. And I like how you said Rankin on Bass specials because we can't claim to be a Christmas podcast anymore.
No.
We're beyond that and then some. You know, when you talk about Rankin and Bass's Lord of the Rings, you kind of lose the ability to say you're a holiday show ananymore.
But those aired in the holidays. No, I don't know. I'm just trying to help.
They may have.
I was just trying to help.
As for me, you can find me on the internet at cstashu.com. That's my link tree that goes to all the things that I work on. The other thing that I work on that Mike hasn't mentioned is the Culture Cast, which comes out once a week. We talk about movies. Yippee.
Sometimes Father Malone's on there.
Sometimes
I'm
you're on there. Sometimes other people are on there. Sometimes nobody's on there and we don't do it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call those missed weeks.
Yeah, right. And for this show, you can find us at TwilightZone85.com, Twilight Zone 85 on Twitter. And as always, big thanks to Roxy Drive and Neutron Dreams for the music for the show. And we'll catch you on the next episode, I think.
That works.
Are you still here, listener?